So I'm going to shift gears here just a little bit, talk a little bit about language, behaviors, and communication brain ranges. Anybody familiar with a person by the name of Paul MacLean? Well, that's good. That means I got something to talk about. Anybody ever heard of the concept of the Triune Brain? Oh, I've got lots to talk about that. So anyway, Paul MacLean, in about 1970, 80 something, wrote a book called The Triune Brain, and we'll talk about it here in a second. And a retired U.S. Air Force with a PhD in something picked up on his work by the name of Gerald Corey. He was at one time CEO of Tandem Electronics, and basically wrote a book called Towards Conscience. I had to think there for a second. Anyway, up here on the slide, we have the Triune Brain and we have the Corey model. Over here we got what in the lower right? A turtle. So what Paul MacLean basically said was there's a very ancient part to each of our brains. And he termed it the reptilian brain. So it's right around the brain stem. If you're walking down a path and you see a lizard, what do they generally do? They're not like the Gecko and the Geico commercial and come out and greet you and go up and try to sell you insurance. No, they run under a rock. There's fear. Over on the left-hand side, we see what? A big tongue. A big tongue. So the second part of the Triune Brain, according to MacLean, was the mammalian brain. And it's very closely tied to our limbic system. So our feelings and our emotions and how we sort of connect with the world. And then right at the top is what separates us from the rest of the animal kingdom, and it's the neocortex. So basically MacLean boiled this down, and the neuroscience don't like this because it's not granular enough. But basically said there's a reptilian portion of our brain, there's a mammalian portion of our brain, and there's the neocortex. Corey went on to say that the reptilian is all about self-preservation. Mammalian is all about the affectional program in terms of how we feel about other people. And he then said the neocortex is basically the executive program that is balancing the reptilian portion and the mammalian portion. So let me give you a little explanation here. Self-preservation, reptilian. People who are basically all about me. The need for seeking power, domination, assertiveness, competitiveness, and myself over others. The mammalian side is basically the affectional program. I really care about you and all the issues that you're dealing with and what's happening in your life. So it's self-sacrificing, submission, responsive, supporting, others over self, and it's all about you. Can anybody think of people that are on one extreme and the other, that self-serving part as opposed to this affectional part? You got some examples in your head? And what Corey basically said is that neocortex is doing this balancing act between the self-preservation and the affectional program to compromise, create fairness and equality. So this past week I was in Atlanta with one of my clients, and we were dealing with a situation where their direct reports, which was a district manager and a technical manager, who have what's called two in the box, who lead a team. And they don't get along. And basically, the director of the district sales manager was lining up with his person, and the director of the technical service side was lining up with his person. And you could see a huge turf battle occurring here. Now these two managers, not the directors, but the managers, they are about as sensory and cognitively different as you can get. Just look at Deanne and Stephen. Hugely different. And they've had huge problems learning how to work with each other. To the point, and this isn't in Stephen and Deanne's case, but to the point trust is eroded, respect is eroded, and so on and so forth. So anyway, I'm working with these two managers, or two directors. And this teeter-totter is going on. And I'm seeing them struggling with, I got to take care of my turf. I got to take care of my person. I got to take care of my turf. Got to take care of my person. And how many have ever been in a teeter-totter with you being 125 pounds and the other person being 200 pounds? There you go. One person's on the ground and the other person's got their feet dangling. And basically, those directors all of a sudden became very much self-serving, egotistical, aggressive, and it's, I'm going to take care of my turf and I'm going to make sure that this person doesn't lose their job. And I'm going to make sure your person gets fired. And I started saying, you know, you guys are riding a teeter-totter about like this, and it ain't working. And then the managers would say, I'm going to take care of my person, particularly that technical person, and the director of the technical person, because she's done a good job, and she has accomplished a lot of things, and she's not getting any respect from her fellow manager. So it was all about taking care of that person, and it's all about you. And the point is, when we're in extremes like this, how effective are we as leaders? I hear not. We're not very effective because we're taking this way too personal. It's all about me or it's all about you. The key here, and this goes back to where we opened, we've got to find ways, I believe, going forward as leaders to make what we do more about we and ours and creating fun. Because when we're on a teeter-totter and we're both sharing it, is it fun? As opposed to holding one person up in the air or holding another person up in the air. And when we're having fun, what are we doing? We're stimulating the executive program. Because when a person is down in their self-preservation, you think they learn very well? When they're fearful, when they're concerned about their job, their future, when they're sitting around complaining and arguing and frustrated and they're in the mammalian mind, do you think they're learning anything? So I believe, we believe, that our key to helping us renew the world we live in our country, is to create fun environments where people can intellectually engage at the neocortex. Because if you're engaged at the neocortex, what are you going to be able to do? Think. What else? Excel. You think you'll be more creative? More innovative? More practical? Absolutely. Because fun, and this is a quote that I found in the book, fun is when you're intellectually excited, and you're interacting with each other. It's the struggles and the failures that go with it that make work fun. So as adults, if we're making fun work environments, do you feel the energy? Do you see the passion? Do you hear people talking about new concepts and ideas? So our objective is how do we help leaders make fun environments? Because if we do this, and we can do it by starting with aligning with people's cognitive and sensory preferences. Because when people feel like we're in alignment with them, they feel like they're being heard, they feel like they're being felt, they feel like they're being seen. And when we have words and actions that are in alignment and helping and healing, we upshift people to the neocortex. And when we are out of alignment, like my second boss and myself, we're going to probably use words that are hurting and out of alignment, and we shift down to the amygdala and the hypothalamus. And that hypothalamus and amygdala is right there at the top of the brainstem. It's that reptilian portion of the brain, or the mammalian portion of the brain. So if you ever wonder why people are resistant to change, why they're reluctant to get involved, why they're reluctant to learn, it starts with, are we in alignment or out of alignment with them sensorily and cognitively? And we're not doing things to shift them to the neocortex. So bringing conversations to the middle and aligning with people, I believe, is a key component to building our future. So, to basically wrap up, Stephen mentioned earlier, we're just in the process of finishing a workbook called the Practical Neuroscience of Leadership, Building Professional and Personal Relationship. It contains a self-assessment, a growth instrument. It helps people in jobs that you need to manage the boss above you. It gives you tools for basically helping getting in alignment. It helps in terms of working with peers and teams. It helps in terms of working with subordinates and coaching. And it helps if you need to influence people inside or outside of your organization. The other things that we have done over the years is use these tools extensively in strategic planning, because when I have a group of people that I'm doing strategic planning with, I want to make sure that they can really communicate with each other. I've just had a paper approved on a very complex merger of bringing 5 different cultures together. And we used these tools as well as the organizational culture inventory and appreciative inquiry to create organizations where people respected each other's cultures. And the last is we've had significant experience in terms of using these skills to basically help people give more impactful presentations, facilitations, and teaching. Because if I can't connect with you sensorily or cognitively, how can people learn?